Hello, everyone. My name is Lakeisha, and I am here to share with you my experience with the spinal cord stimulator trial. Today is my first day of the trial, and I thought that maybe it would be helpful if I would provide a video. I understand, you might be in the same situation as I was, that you're going to get this done and you don't have anyone to refer to or know anyone that's gone through the process. So that being said, I just kind of wanted to share how everything was going for me. The reason that I'm doing the spinal cord stimulator trial is because I'm suffering with known as spinal stenosis. I had my first surgery to address that issue about 8 years ago. I had decompression surgery for L4 and L5, and fast forward 8 years later, I began to have significant pain in my left leg, lower back, hip, just extreme pain to the point that it affected my mobility. So decided to try a spinal cord stimulator before considering the option of doing anything such as spinal fusion. So I kind of want the spinal fusion to be the last resort. So that being said, today is day one for me. I got this procedure done yesterday. Um, when you do get ready to go for your trial, I would say of course, you want to make sure that you're wearing something really comfortable. Make sure that you're wearing pants that have elastic in them. Um, as far as footwear is concerned, I actually was just wearing house shoes that kind of have the house shoes that you just kind of stick your foot in. They're not really thick or bulky. They're just thin that you can walk around the house in, because I kind of knew that once I would get through with this procedure, I didn't want to be in a predicament of trying to get myself out of the procedure area, slipping on shoes or whatnot. Um, that being said, when I got to the facility, check-in was really rather quick. I went to the back. They performed a blood pressure check. Then I was weighed. They asked me all the questions to make sure that I was compliant with the instructions before having the procedure. So instructions for me involved not eating or drinking within an 8-hour period before the procedure. It also involved, make sure that you didn't take anything such as a blood thinner or aspirin, because that might cause complications. So I assured them that I hadn't violated any of those things. After the initial questioning was done and all the weigh in and the blood pressure check, and also they check your temperature, I was led to the PACU area, post anesthesia care unit, I guess, if you want to be technical. But once I arrived in that area, I was provided with a hospital gown, and I just had to remove my top and just the undergarment of my bra. I had to remove that. And once in that area, I met with the nurse. She once again asked me all the things that they asked me initially during the blood pressure check and the weigh-in, making sure that I hadn't eaten 8 hours prior to the procedure. Um, she just gave me a general expectation of what would happen. That being said, she started an IV. IV was started, they placed it in my hand rather than my upper arm. And after she started the IV, she then provided me with a little glass tube that had a little Q-tip at the top of it. And I was instructed to go within each nostril a circle of 4 times to place the substance within my nose. After that, she checked my blood sugar, just checked my glucose levels. At that point, my blood sugar was reading 174, which is high for me, but I was instructed not to take any insulin prior to the procedure, so that's why it was high as it was. They would rather have it high than be too low. Um, so once she finished checking my blood sugar and the IV was done and I was finished placing the little substance in my nose, she gave me a dose of Pepsid, And then she also discussed my current medications that I were on. And since I'm really kind of sensitive to a lot of things, they chose to give me an antibiotic. I think the name of it is Ancef, just to make sure that I didn't have a negative reactive reaction to it. She provided like maybe a small amount. I think she said 10 units. And she instructed me that she would just let me sit for 10 minutes to make sure I didn't have any bad reaction to that medicine. So once the 10 minutes was up, she did return. I didn't have any negative effects from the Ansif, so she provided me with more. At that point, the doctor came in, once again gave me a rundown of the procedure. And if you're at this video, I think you would already have researched what they're going to do and how they're going to place it. So he gave me a rundown of how everything would go, and just give me a general idea of basically, it would be okay. Just basically reassuring you everything that I've been reassured of since visiting his office initially, beginning the process. So once all of the pre-op stuff was done, I was taken to the procedure room, at which point they're going to have you get on the I hate to say operating table, but they're going to have you get onto that table, and you're going to be face down. At that point, they began to prep my back, scrubbing it down, placing a thin layer of plastic over me, and I was advised that they were going to begin the process. But because of the anesthesia, I slowly kind of went to sleep. I had no idea what they were doing. It seemed like within a matter of seconds, they were telling me, "Hey, are you okay? Are you doing fine? We're almost done." And so for me, it was seconds. For them, maybe, I don't know how long the procedure took, but I was so unaware. But upon waking up, the only thing that I was aware of, he was saying that the doctor was telling me that he was finishing stitching. When it comes to that, I could actually feel his movement, although I couldn't feel any pain from him stitching. I could just, I could sense his movement there, and he was telling me that he was finishing up the stitching. They were asking me about my blood pressure. They were telling me that my blood pressure was extremely high, and that they were concerned, and had I had any problems with blood pressure, did I take my medicine for blood pressure that morning, which I had. And while they were talking to me, just asking me just really general things, I noticed that I had a significant pain in my left leg, so much to the point that I said, something's wrong. I have to get up. This hurts. And he's like, "Well, we're almost done. Don't worry about it. We'll get you back. We'll get you on your back in a minute and place you back in the room. We're almost done." So once the stitching was finished up and I was allowed to roll back over to the stretcher, they placed me back in PACU. And at that point, the pain in my left leg was significant. It felt like an open wound at that point. I had to actually move the blanket that was given to me, and look at my leg, because it physically felt as if it was an open wound, an open cut. And looking at it, nothing wrong, and I'm like, "Oh wow, this just hurts so bad." And the nurse came in and checked on me, and I, explained the pain that I was going through, and she was like, "Well, the doctor will be in with you shortly. Don't worry, and you can explain it to him." And when the doctor did come in, I explained the significant pain that I was having in my left leg, at which point I was told that during the procedure they had some difficulty placing the leads in my back. That being said, one of the negative things that happen is they end up inadvertently hurting a nerve while going through that process. But they were really, I had two doctors working on this procedure. So when I say they felt really happy about where the leads was placed. They said everything else went smoothly, and they felt that the placement of the leads would address the pain concerns that I had. That being said, the doctor, one remained behind, and he had the device. That obviously I didn't have to carry a bag with my device. I was told that you have this device in a bag and you would carry the bag all week. They actually taped it to my back, so I just have this massive tape all across my back, holding the device and holding everything in place. So while I was laying there, um, he basically took the time and he was explaining that it should cover all of the pains that you were experiencing. So that being said, when he obviously he cut the machine on, and when he cut it on, I literally jumped out of my skin because my entire right leg, all I felt was an electric jolt. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I need to start this slow. I'm sorry about that." But it was enough of a jolt that I literally jumped. I jumped. I couldn't help it. I jumped. That being said, he started messing with the controls. He was like, "Well, tell me when you feel tingling." So he messed with the control. I felt tingling in my right leg. I was like, "Well, I can feel it tingling in my right leg." He's like, "Okay, that's good. Tell me what you feel now." And at that point, I could feel tingling in my buttocks area, both sides, left and right. I was like, "Well, my butt's tingling." He's like, "That's good. Okay, well, do you feel this?" And he kept doing these controls, and I would feel different tingling sensations throughout my lower body. And he was like, "Okay, well, I'm finna set it. And that being said, you won't have to mess with any controls. I'm just gonna put it on this setting, and you'll be fine." And he was like, "I know that you're in pain with the leg pain. Don't worry about that. That should clear up in a day or two." And he was like, "As far as your pain elsewhere," he was like, "You're not going to just experience a sudden improvement. It's just going to take a little while to take effect." And that being said, I was like, "Okay, well, that sounds fine." But to me, with all the reviews I heard about spinal cord stimulators, everyone was acting like, "Oh, as soon as you walk out, it's going to be a gift from God and everything's going to be great and you're going to be walking again. It's going to be awesome." But here he is telling me, "No, it's going to take a few days." So that being said, after he left, the nurse came in. She offered me a beverage. She was saying, "Well, we want to make sure that you get some caffeine just in case you might have any issues with a spinal headache." At that point, I had heard of spinal headaches because of the myogram that I had performed. They warn you about spinal headaches, so I didn't really question her on it. I had heard of it, and I was like, okay. I was kind of dismissive about it. So gave me a Diet Coke, drinking a Diet Coke, left leg still killing me. But I'm like, okay, he said it'll be fine. Just, I was taking stock of myself. And they were like, "Okay, well, we're finna get ready to get you home. We asked your ride to come, pull around, and we're gonna get you in a wheelchair, and you'll be able to go home." So as I'm getting off of the bed and into the wheelchair, all of a sudden, the best way that I can explain it, it is like the hand of God came and slapped me in the head. It was the most significant head pain I have ever had in my entire life. I did not know your head could hurt like that. It hurt so bad. I immediately balled up into myself. I took my hands and I just was cradling my head and just going, "Ah." And they was like, "Okay, okay, we're gonna get you back in bed. You gotta let go. You gotta." And I just could not let my hands go from my head. All I could do was just grip my head in pain. It was horrible. I mean, really, really, really horrible. Never had anything like that ever. So that being said, um, they put me back in the bed, and it was like, "Just lie flat on your back. It'll be fine." And literally, the minute I laid flat on my back, the pain, the significant pain lifted, but there was still a migraine. At that point, it became a migraine. It wasn't excruciating. It became a migraine. And I'm like, "Oh my God, my head hurts so bad." And I was like, "It's going to be fine. It just seems like you have a spinal fluid leak. And that's normal. That, it can happen. It's one of the side effects that can happen." And I was like, "We just really need you to drink caffeine." And at that point, the migraine was increasing a little bit, and I began to dry heave, and it was like I wanted to throw up. But of course, because I hadn't had anything to eat, there was nothing to throw up. So I basically only threw up the soda that I was given. Um, that being said, they told me that they would inform my driver that I wasn't ready to go just yet. The nurse came in. She gave me Finnegan for the nausea, and I was given Demerol, and I just laid on my back and try to let the nausea subside and let the pain kind of subside. So there I am with my head splitting from this migraine headache and my leg still hurting from the nerve problem of going through this procedure, and it was miserable. So when I finally got over my nausea, they said they wanted to give 20 minutes before they would let me go home. So after I assumed what 20 minutes was up, I was allowed to leave. That being said, the procedure was not done in my hometown. I had to go like an hour away. It's like maybe about an hour and 20 minutes at the most for the drive. So I had to be placed in the back seat of the car on my back because any other position had excruciating pain. So even when I got in the wheelchair and was placed in the car, my head was splitting. It was the worst headache I've ever had in my life. Once again, a spinal headache, never heard of those, but oh my God, horrible. So that being said, they placed me in a car and I was on my back for the entire ride. Thankfully, being tired, the effects of whatever medicine they gave me, I was able to go to sleep. So I wasn't up the whole hour, 20-minute drive. I was knocked out, went to sleep. Um, I had my friend that took me, I had them go in the convenience store, grab me some Red Bulls since we're gonna say, if caffeine is gonna help. I knew that the little Diet Coke wasn't gonna do much. I figured there wasn't enough caffeine for the pain that I was in. So I was like, if caffeine is what's gonna stop this, let's get some caffeine. Get me 3 Red Bulls. So I got literally 3 Red Bulls, 20-ounce cans, and I did eat yesterday. I had to make myself eat because I kept getting sick on my stomach and I knew I didn't have anything on my stomach. So that being said, I just got some Campbell soup, chicken and rice, and I drank Red Bull. So I only had that 1 can of soup yesterday and 3 Red Bulls. That's all I had. Um, as the night proceeded, the pain in my left leg became significantly worse. It began to pulsate. It was like electricity. It was almost like someone had an electrical poker, a cow prod, and they were sticking you. And I could literally count to 30 or I could count to 33 and it would hit. I would count to 30 or, just before I would get to the number 35, it would hit. And so because it was so continuous and because it was pulsing so frequently, the only thing I could think of was like, well, maybe it's this electrical device. Maybe this thing in my back is causing this pain, and maybe there's something else wrong. Maybe it's more than just a nerve damage, like the doctor said. So I reached out to him. Thankfully, they provided me, the doctor, he provided me with his personal cell phone number. I felt really self-conscious about using that, but I really wanted to address it. It was something that I wasn't used to, and it just did not feel right. And at that point, from the headache and the pain in my leg, I was literally in tears. I was basically crying all day yesterday. So I spoke to him around about 10 at night, and he was like, once again, when we did the procedure, it just inadvertently inflamed that nerve. It's going to be okay. It's going to subside. I'm going to check on you tomorrow. But until then, keep drinking caffeine. That'll help with the spinal headache. Remain on bed rest. Don't do anything. Remain on your back as much as possible. That being said, um, I was in such pain. In order to that night, I took one of my muscle relaxers, and I took 2 Excedrin migraine pills, in the red bottle, Excedrin migraine. Took 2 of those, and I also took some Motril because I was still nauseated. So I had some over-the-counter Motril to address the nausea, and I was eventually able to go to sleep. And so that being said, I was like I said, it was around about 10 o'clock that night. The next day, which is today right now for me, Woke up today and the headache was gone. Thank God. So no headache. Got over that. So glad. As far as the leg pain, that subsided too. So he was right. It's still there. Let's say that it's not like consistent like it was. So yesterday it had its own pulse. Today it's like every now and then it's just like, here I am. Like, hey, stab you. Here it is. It's like a stabbing electrical pain. That's the only way I can explain it. Um, what I found that kind of helps it is if there's nothing on it. So, I had to trade out the pajama pants for shorts so I wouldn't have that rubbing against it. Because, like cloth, like even my blanket, if I put it over that leg, the rubbing of the fabric, it feels like fire ants. If you've ever been bitten by fire ants, that's what it feels like. It feels like little tiny stings. And it's just, it's really frustrating. But as far as the pain that I normally experience, the whole reason that I'm going through this trial, all of that pain is gone. So the pain in my hip, the pain in my lower back, all of it's gone. I mean, literally, it's gone. I don't feel it anymore. The only thing that's happening with my back now is it's sore. I can tell it's sore from where they, maybe stitched me up and where the procedure took place. And as far as my back, I feel like it's weak, which is understandable. I haven't really used my muscles as much as I should have. The spinal stenosis, it just basically crippled me to a point that I lost my mobility. So in order for me to wash dishes or even cook my food, I would do it from a chair. I mean, even mop the floor from a chair. So usually couldn't stand up more than 3 minutes at a time without being in just significant pain and immediately sitting back down. But now, today, I can stand up, I can walk around, albeit a little slow. Um, but I'm really, really happy. I'll just be glad when the inflamed nerve settles down. Tomorrow, day two, I'll do another update. I'm going to do a wound check at the office. And they're going to, I guess, check everything out, re-bandage me up, and we'll see how day two goes. But day one is a lot better than getting it done initially. So if I could give you any takeaway, when you get the procedure done, wear pants that have elastic in waist. Wear undergarments that you don't care about messing up because of the bleeding that I had. I ruined my clothes yesterday. Like it was some significant bleeding for me. But who knows? Maybe I'm just a bleeder. Maybe you won't go through that. That being said, so make sure you wear elastic pants. And if you can get away with some house shoes that are really comfy and easy to keep on your feet, I would say do that. And in preparation for, God forbid, you have the spinal headache, make sure that you have plenty of drinks at home that contain caffeine. You know, so you won't have to stop by the store like I did. But I'll see you next update for day two of the spinal stimulator trial. Thanks. Bye bye.